Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wine Man TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Show where I help you spend your wine dollars wisely. I wanted to thank my viewer David Rumelo. He said, Stan, you just need to stick with your introduction. I agree with him. But I also want to expand people's palates horizons. I want to teach people about the wine world, all of that included, not just helping you spend your wine dollars wisely, although that is something that means a lot to me. So I'm going to stick with that. Thanks, David. I appreciate the encouragement. As promised, I'm going to talk a little bit about the 100-point scoring system for wine and why I don't use it and why I actually don't like it. I've thought about this for a long time. I've been tempted to use it because I know a lot of people, maybe you included, kind of like that system. You know, you like to hear, oh, this wine got 96 points, this wine got 98 points, etc., etc. As you all know, wine is very subjective. What James Suckling or Parker or somebody else gives a wine doesn't always mean that you're going to like it as well as they did. There's other factors involved in it as well. For instance, one of the wine critics will not review your wine unless you subscribe to their website. So they get some money out of it. There's other things like that that happen. You have to imagine some periodicals take advertising from wineries. Now, you know, let's say we feel that they are being somewhat subjective themselves, but it does kind of step in a precarious area about your reviewing wines because you have people giving you money to advertise in your periodical and you're reviewing their wines. You know, where does that take you? I don't know. I'm not there. I wouldn't go there. Just saying. But the 100-point system, which most people use, a lot of YouTubers use it. They use that 100-point system. I switched to a grading system a long time ago, and Joe Roberts, one wine dude out of Pennsylvania, uses the grading system. And I saw that and I said, you know what? That is a great way to do it. Why? Because it's concise. It's a small scale that you can use, and everybody understands it. We went through grade school, junior high, high school, getting grades. We understand what they mean. When you do a really good job on a paper, you get an A. When you do a pretty good job on a paper, you might get a B. If you do an average job, you get a C. If you do below average, you get a D or an F. We know how that works. It's very easy. Now think about the 100-point system. It used to be a long time ago, when I first started getting interested in wine, which was quite a few years ago, you would read the Wine Spectator and they would have all these reviews, and sometimes they would give a wine a 50 points. And they'd put it in their review. And I mean, you could tell by reading the review that it was garbage. Now they gave that up. Now they only go between, let's say, 82 and 100. Think about that. That's only 18 points being used. Why don't you just go to a 20-point scale like they do at UC Davis? I mean, you've got a ton of points that are not being used at all, and there's a reason they don't use them. And this is just me thinking this through. Why would you want to diss a wine and then have them never give you a sample again, never spend any money on your periodical, never advertise? I mean, you know, obviously it was a trend that was popular way back in the day, but not so much anymore. I'm serious. You look now, it's usually somewhere between 80 and 100 points. Let's just say 82 is about average of the lowest they'll go into 100. Just to me. And you can tell me if you disagree. I want to hear it in the comments. But that's a lot of points just being thrown out the window because you want to give somebody a 100-point wine. It's become quite a thing. You know, I know people who really focus on points. That's how they buy their wines. Now, that being said, in the department, my wine department with Scott and I, we've actually gotten to the point where most of our customers come to Scott, come to myself, and ask us for advice. Some of the visitors to the island will get on their phones and look at, okay, how many points did this get? That's fine. And I don't really have a beef with people who use points. I've been tempted to do it. I thought, well, maybe I'll get more viewers on my YouTube channel if I use the 100-point scale. But I decided I'm not going to do it. I'm going to keep with my A through F scale, and there's so few wines that are poorly made now that it doesn't matter. But that, to me, makes more sense than throwing out, let's say, 80 points that you never ever use, and nobody gets to hear that. So that's my beef against the 100-point system. And 100 points sounds really cool. Parker started this a long time ago, and it stuck, and now everybody uses it. Now there are some that use wine glasses. They'll use like 5 wine glasses, meaning that the first glass, sometimes the first glass is half empty, means it's probably not a good wine. And the key to anything that you do when you're watching a critic or watching myself or watching other people on YouTube is to try and understand their palate. Now, I've claimed many times that I have a retail palate. I believe I do, because I have to sell wine to customers. And unlike a lot of critics on YouTube or in periodicals, they don't have to face the customer that they recommended that wine to. So, I do. And I have had people come back and say, hey, Stan, I really didn't like that wine you recommended. So then I say to them, why didn't you like it? And I'm able to pick their brain and see what their palate is like. And then next time they come in, I say, give me another try, and I avoid those certain characteristics in a wine. In fact, today, I got my hair cut, and Kim, who cuts my hair, mentioned that anytime she reads my notes, which I put on all the wine stacks that I put on the floor, she said anytime I see currants as the initial note, like this thing has a ton of currants on the front of the palate, she avoids it because she just doesn't like that flavor profile. That's the way you should be as a wine person. Don't look at points. Look at the person reviewing that wine. I mean, classic example is Robert Parker became famous for liking big, unctuous wines. I mean, they actually kind of kicked him out of Burgundy because he was so critical. Well, one of the reasons they kicked him out of Burgundy is because he said the wines that were coming to the U.S. were not the same wines that he barrel tasted in Burgundy. Well, that kind of pissed him off. They're like, okay, that's not true. Okay, you're barrel tasting. Once we bottle the wine and send it to the U.S., of course it's going to taste different. It traveled on the water. However you want to look at it, it's going to take a little bit different, but it's not a different wine, which is what he kind of accused them of doing. So they kind of booted him out. And he rarely reviewed Loire Valley wines because, hey, they were too thin, too weak, in his opinion. So if you knew Parker, and I shout out to Dick, because he always says, well, when I used to read Parker reviews, I said, if he gave it an 85, 86, 87, I probably figured I'd like it. Because he knew Robert Parker's palate. And I hope you guys are kind of looking at my palate and how I review wines and trying to understand what I do. And then you can base your decision on buying a wine based on how you know my palate is. I have a certain advantage in the fact that I deal with people all the time on the floor. I have to review wines I have to tell them, give them suggestions, and because of that, my palate has become more, I believe, broader, more understanding what people like or dislike. And next episode is going to be on a winery, Washington State winery, that I really have been enjoying their wines, and I want to share those with you because I think they're really good values and they're stellar wines. Thanks for taking a little time out of your day. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe to my channel so you can see what's coming up. You keep watching, and I'll keep helping you spend your wine dollars wisely.